Well, hello everyone, and welcome to our PSNI Global Alliance webinar with our global vendor partner, Williams AV. I'm Tom Roberts, the Director of Vendor Programs for the Alliance. An interesting fact of about 15% of Americans aged 18 and over report issues with hearing. The World Health Organization estimates an unaddressed hearing loss that poses an annual global cost of $980 billion. So this presentation is really valuable, and if you don't put these products in your proposals going forward, I think you're really missing an opportunity. It's my pleasure to introduce Nancy Blanchard, Global Consultant Liaison at Williams, for an overview of their Wi-Fi audio products for assisted communication. Today's webinar will be recorded, so a copy will be sent to you as soon as it's made available. All attendees will be in the listen-only mode, and we really do encourage you to ask questions. So please use the question box to the right of the screen, and we'll get to them as soon as we can. Those that we can't get to, we'll address on a one-off basis. Now with that, let me turn the webinar over to Nancy. Welcome, Nancy.
Thank you, Tommy. I'd also like to introduce Matt Callender. He is part of our TechBlue team. He's on here today and will be available at the end for questions. And he's based in our head office that's in Minnesota. I'm here in sunny San Jose, California. So with that, let's get going. So what I'm going to talk to you about today, and believe it or not, this is our third webinar for 2022. Our last one will take place in December, but for today, I want to discuss real-time Wi-Fi audio for assistive communication. And while I was putting this presentation together, I did a little research, and I'm not sure if you know this, so did you know that Frederick C. Rhine was the first person to commercially produce assistive communication devices, and that's in the late 18th century. And then also he developed an accompanying acoustic headband, which was able to disguise the device in a user's hair. And to the right, you see the evolution of the various patent phones. So it was, I mean, Williams has been in business for 45 plus years and starting out with the traditional assistive listening. But to go back the 18th century, I thought that was neat to include this. And, you know, countries around the world are enforcing laws protecting people with disabilities, including hearing loss. There are revenue opportunities as these laws now are being taken more seriously for accessibility. And as Tommy mentioned, I was really blown away by the World Health Organization that's reporting that over 1 billion young adults now are at a risk of permanent, avoidable hearing loss due to unsafe listening practices. And we all know that. They have headphones, they have AirPods, they have earphones all day in their ears. I guess I say too young, I can't say children anymore. Do I say teenagers? They're 18 and 21. And I've seen it with them. And you know, young people just don't realize is that having that consistently in your ears, listening to media, the type of damage that you could be doing to your hearing years down the road. So when you're 40 and 50 and you're realizing you're having to ask people to repeat things, that's because it was back in your younger days attending loud concerts. In today's generation is constantly wearing some type of device. And my concern, even as a parent, think about those 2 years where they were doing distance learning via Zoom with the classes. So all day having classes, all day wearing those devices. And, you know, most people believe that hearing loss experienced by those with congenital conditions, severe illness, or old age. But increasingly, it's an issue among the younger generation, with at least 700 million of those requiring some form of hearing rehabilitation. In my last webinar, I had mentioned this, and I will again. So now it's a couple months ago, I read an article from a doctor who said that hearing loss is increasingly being recognized as an effect of COVID with tinnitus and partial deafness. And I have spoken to people who have COVID, who are in our profession, especially acoustics, who have problems hearing now. And one had to actually borrow his father's hearing aids. And he's not quite sure, is this going to be a condition that he's going to have for the rest of his life, or will it go away? So, you know, it's very important that we must look at and take a little bit more seriously. And then also, hearing just isn't about hearing loss. It could be bad sound, poor room acoustics, a soft-spoken presenter where you're straining your ear to be able to hear what they're saying, background noise. A person can have challenges such as situational impairment that is affected by their environment or circumstances, such as, you know, being in a ballroom, let's say, and there's the different levels of lighting, and so it's difficult in seeing that screen, or hearing audio in a crowded room. Because with convention centers and meeting rooms, as well as I mentioned, the ballrooms, the doors may be closed, but you're still hearing the clattering, the chatter, and any other noises that could make it difficult to be able to follow along in the presentation. So with Williams AV, as I mentioned, starting out with the traditional assistive listening of the FM, the IR, we stepped back and we listened to what people were saying, what their desires, what their challenges were. And our mission is that we provide assistive communication technology solutions that help people hear, see, and engage. You have older people, but also people with neurodiversity. So disabilities aren't just physical, there are other types of disabilities. Those that are neurodiverse could be ADHD, autism, audio processing, dyslexia, and many more. And then also, you know, non-native speakers. So it's hard for them to be able to follow along as well. So disability is diverse and it comes in many forms. And we are addressing inclusion with our assistive communication technology. From the wireless audio side, of which I'm going to cover Wi-Fi, is you have DigiWave, which is digital RF. It runs on 2.4 gigahertz. In some countries, they can't use the FM frequency of 72 to 76 megahertz, so DigiWave is a solution. Of course, FM that's been around. WaveCAST is our Wi-Fi that I will discuss. Infrared, and then induction loop. And induction loop has been around forever, and it's still going strong. We are busy with lots of projects. Intercom and tour guide is that under those, you have DigiWave, FM, and then Talk Perfect, which is a consumer product. And then finally, human interpretation. So these are the areas under wireless audio. Now, why I said assistive communication technology is because we have broadened our horizons. We offer a video annotation product that's used in courts, teaching hospitals, teaching classes, athletics such as the NFL, and its high-end 4K annotation on a screen. And then the captioning and translation. And I have discussed that in previous webinars where that's that inclusion for everyone, because you have real-time open captioning and translation displayed on a screen. So we're breaking the language barriers. Now, which technology fits where? It's one size doesn't fit all, and not one technology fits all either. Induction loop might be good for performing arts or for house of worship. Transportation, that is where you have the direct to the hearing aid T-coil without having to use receivers or other devices. IR has been around for a long time. It's easy to install. It provides a secure environment. Courtrooms, cinemas, education may use that, so that's where that might be a good fit. And then FM, low cost, easy to install, but it also has a large coverage area. Stadiums, education, there are actually, with all of our products and technology, kits. And so you might have a student that takes an FM kit from class to class. And so then that's easier for them to connect with the teacher. And then also the digital that I talked to you about, DigiWave, so house of worship, auditoriums, tour guides, very popular in courtrooms because you can have groups that are set up and secure channels. So the defendant might be talking to his client separate from the judge talking to the sidebar. And then finally, Wi-Fi. And that is allowing individuals to be able to use their own device. And there's a plethora of different applications and markets, and that's what I'm going to cover. But just to give you an idea, is that there are different technologies. It really depends on the application, how it's being used. And for several decades, the assistive communication technology, AKA listening assistance, landscape has been dominated by the three analog technologies: induction loop, radio frequency, FM, and infrared, IR. But Wi-Fi audio, it's now comparable to and often superior to analog systems. It continues to grow, and it's a great option for certain venues, but not all. So this is just a simple chart that shows what the key advantages are of each technology. And what we have there is that smartphone compatible. It's the latest technology under Wi-Fi. I found this and I really did like this chart. And let's look at what the basic human needs are. At the top, we have creativity, authenticity, self-esteem, confidence, family, friends, shelter, and then safety. And the second important one is air, food, and water, of course, because we have to survive. But look at the most important is Wi-Fi. As we travel, as we go to places, what's the first thing that you probably do is you get up in your settings and you connect to that public Wi-Fi, so that if you're traveling, you're not increasing all of your roaming charges and building those up. I have AT&T, so I actually do for $10 a day. I've got the international day plan, but most people are very comfortable in connecting to Wi-Fi. And just with these statistics that I found, consider how these numbers tower over the entire assistive communication technologies market. And, you know, it leads to unmatchable economies of scale, all due to bring your own device trend, which is more appealing to many people. We've got, 66 of the world's population are smartphone users. And every year there's a 3% increase. And by 2024, it's projected to be 56.28%. And the age groups 18 to 29, 96% are smartphone owners. In elementary school, it started being the thing where parents were giving their children smartphones. And I absolutely said, no, that is too young. They don't need one. Then we get into middle school, more and more kids are having smartphones. And I finally broke down in the 7th grade because I realized if they were going to be late and were taking a test, how would I know? I'd end up sitting there waiting to pick them up. They could call me. So it became convenient. And I could call them or text them to say, oh, I'm going to be a little bit late. So 96, I think that between 18 to 29, they should actually make that even lower in age. And then 30 to 49 is 92%, and 50 to 64 is 79%. And then from 65 and above, still high, 53% that use smartphones. Now, what kind of applications are there for Wi-Fi audio? When people think about the typical use for audio over Wi-Fi streaming, usually businesses are listed that have numerous TVs that are muted and mounted in the building throughout. Fitness centers, sports bars, or venues that need to have provide a convenient assistive communication solution, such as house of worship, and even theaters. Corporate headquarters and larger businesses with offering a gym or fitness center that their employees can access at any time is a perfect solution for streaming audio to phones, because you don't have to be tethered to any piece of cardio equipment. Rather, you can move around freely throughout the fitness center and use several machines, all while enjoying the news, a game, a TV show, or anything else playing in the facility. Other areas such as hospital waiting rooms, warehouse, factories, stadiums, casinos, gaming resorts. So the bonus to using Wi-Fi over audio or audio over Wi-Fi is that a person doesn't need to borrow, as well as a facility, a venue. They don't need to clean and maintain any additional devices or dedicated headsets. They listen with their smartphones, tablets, or any other personal mobile devices through an app. The benefit is that it's discreet. And this is important for students, that they don't stand out in the class. They simply use their Wi-Fi app, connect to the channel that the teacher has, and they can follow along with their AirPods or their headsets. And I just want to touch point on one other in that application, and that is the silent concerts discos. I've never been to one, but this summer I took my boys on a Disney European vacation, and they were happy because, you know what, over in Europe, the legal age is 18. So I see the next day my eldest, and he showed me he went to one of the clubs and there was a silent disco. So what you see is the headphones and everybody's bopping, but there's no music. So that is an application that can be used with Wi-Fi. So they just choose what channel, what language, and listen to their favorite music and have fun. As for how you do access the Wi-Fi is that there's a free downloadable app. It's iOS and Android. And, you know, there's customization. You can add a company logo, a venue logo to it, but then also with renaming the channels. So it could be Lecture Hall 1, or it could be a convention center name, or whatever you'd like, you can name the channels. For security purposes, there is a 6-digit PIN code, and that can be assigned to each channel or to some channels. How the audio via Wi-Fi works is that you have some form of an audio source. So it could be an audio mixer, it could be an MP3 player, it also could be a microphone. That is then connected to the WaveCAST server, and then to a WAP, a wireless access point, and then you use your smartphone to, via the web app, to choose the channel that you want to connect to. Now, connecting is that facilities generally provide signage, and that is advising that there's a hearing assistance that's available, as well as instructions on regarding the app and how to log on. You either provide an SSID password or also a WaveCAST app PIN. And that is signage that is posted, or it could be such as a presenter or a lecturer that has it posted so that you can see that, or third-party room control system. And then for the receivers, which this is the WaveCAST receiver, make some of these available still for ADA compliance for those that are having problem connecting, or for those who don't have a mobile device. And then in terms of, well, what version do you need to have? For Android, it's 6.0 or above. And iOS, I think we're already at 16, but it's 12.0 or later is required. Now, if there isn't an internet connection, then devices must okay no internet warnings. And with some Android devices, you may need to be set in airplane mode. Let me just go over the difference between non-streaming audio, non-real-time audio streaming, as well as real-time, is that non-real-time outputs, it's processing, and it's not played back in real time. So think of Spotify, Pandora, YouTube. Streaming media players load a few seconds ahead of the stream, or a few seconds of the stream ahead of the time, so that the video or the audio can continue playing if the connection is briefly interrupted. Buffering, that ensures that videos can play smoothly and continuously. However, over slow connections, or if a network has a great deal of latency, a video can take a long time to buffer. Whereas with real-time audio streaming is that for hearing assistance and other applications requiring lip sync, or low latency is critical. And in order to achieve this low latency, WaveCAST has a very limited buffering and packet loss recovery. So when packets are lost, the audio gets jittery and difficult to comprehend. So the network needs to be set up properly to avoid those dropouts. So with real-time audio streaming is that there is no delay at the receiving end. The only difference between real-time and non-real-time is that non-real-time outputs its processing and it's not played back then in real time. Now, there are options with WaveCAST using our Wi-Fi, and even if a venue or a facility has an existing assistive communication solution, you can add Wi-Fi in addition, giving the audience audio options. It allows the people the ability to access different audio channels to anyone with a smartphone. And examples, they vary. So from a theater offering a movie that's in multiple languages, or a museum with multiple video displays, house of worship with overflow areas, and then also events. And I've had requests from consultants for new builds for retirement communities because they have a fitness area, they have an eating area, a lobby, an entertainment area, a common area. And so they want to have that connection for the people that are living there. So the two WaveCAST servers is that there is the one which is our single channel, and I'm going to show that to you. So this is our WaveCAST that can be in Unicast or Multicast mode. You see that you have a front plate, a GUI plate for basic control options. And then we also have a multi-channel one, and that is 8 channels. Now with this one, you can stack up to 4 of these to have 4 channels. With the WaveCAST 8, you can stack 8 of those systems. So now you have 64 channels. So that would be for a larger deployment. There are Dante options. So you can have analog, or you can also have a Dante option. As I mentioned, is that you look at the front of it, you see the front face of the GUI. And so that can be locked so that people aren't playing with it. But you also, that front panel is access to basic controls. There's also our web interface. So that allows you to make adjustments when in there of the DSP adjustments, audio gains, etc. And then why have one unit when you can have 2 technologies? We are the first to launch and be innovative of dual technology. So we're offering flexibility of audio in one box. So you've got FM Plus, which is FM and Wi-Fi with 1 channel of Wi-Fi, or IR Plus, IR plus 2 channels of Wi-Fi. And if at the time that the venue, the organization doesn't want to have the Wi-Fi, they just want to have the FM or the IR, but they want the flexibility to be able to use the Wi-Fi in the future, you can easily just disable it. So in order for Wi-Fi to be Wi-Fi broadcasted to be ADA compliant, as I mentioned, is that you still need to meet and supply a number of dedicated receivers. Now, you have 18 to 29-year-olds that are on college campus. They feel most comfortable using their smartphones versus the older generation, such as a house of worship, using an FM receiver. So we give people options. And then also the dual broadcast is that it makes sense to address all those preferred needs. Accessibility for all. And just to mention that we do have, and I will show it to you, is that we've got the FM Plus C. That is an enhancement so that there is room control now. And in terms of, the different features of FM, all of our Wi-Fi products are built on a hardware-based DSP, and that's designed for pro audio apps where high quality sound is required. So with all of these is that you've got 4 audio presets. It can be hearing assistance, and that is to be optimized for hearing loss. You also have music for high fidelity playback, Voice can be set for maximum speech intelligibility. And then there's a custom preset. So that can be established for a specific performance application. IR Plus, it makes it easy for technicians and support, or sorry, this is the FM Plus. The FM Plus web interface, just as the IR Plus, is that it makes it easy for technicians and support professionals to troubleshoot and monitor systems from anywhere. And I have heard from a variety of people who have said, I wish that more manufacturers would have remote management, because for somebody who's direct managing, let's say, a large university campus, for them to have to go physically to where the equipment is set up and then try to troubleshoot it, they can just be at their desk, bring up the web interface, and be able to see there and do any troubleshooting. And IR Plus is that you've got up to 4 emitters for this IR Plus server. Use your own phone or one of our IR receivers. And then the same is that, you know, we've got the Dante option, we've got the network control interface, and that was this here, which is, it's color coded. So you can see which emitter is not working instead of having to go through and do the figuring out yourself, is that everything is set up easily for you to be able to maintain the system. So what is available for the WaveCAST systems? You've got your remote as well as chargers, and then you can have the system on a company's network, or you can have a separate network. And so we do provide wireless access points that are pre-configured and are compatible with the various countries as well. And then I mentioned about kits. So some places do not want to have a fixed install. To have a kit, to take it from class to class, from room to room, from location to location, and easily set up, and even for budgetary reasons, is that this is an option that people do consider. And I did mention to you with that FM Plus C is that we've got some remote control or remote access and control enhancements. So this is an approved alternative with enhancements for WaveCAST as well as FM Plus. And so we're focusing on telnet commands, IP commands via an internet port to change these settings for FM Plus, for WaveCAST, and then future for our IR platform. So with the addition of the room control, you can optimize the listening experience and maintain other environmental functions from a panel. And so you see there some of the additional enhancements. And, you know, to be able to have the troubleshooting, to be able to view the WaveCAST network settings, and as well as adjust the audio gain input, is that we're making it a lot easier for you to be able to manage the system. So what is our future roadmap with our products? So you saw the receiver, which is our first generation, and it's the first industry one where we manufacture this Wi-Fi receiver. And for those who don't have a smartphone, that's something that can be used. And what's coming soon is our second generation receiver, which we did show at InfoComm if you did attend. It's a new dedicated 5-inch touch panel. There is what I like, an app tutorial, an advice which runs at startup. So it tries to connect to the internet. If it can't, then it will go through steps to troubleshoot to try to connect. And this is my 11 Pro Plus Max. So it's just a little bit bigger than my phone, but that is the new receiver that is coming out soon. And then in terms of Unicast that I mentioned and Multicast, is that Unicast transmission stream, it sends IP packets to a single recipient on a network. It's a one-to-one communication. A multicast transmission sends IP packets to a group of hosts on a network. So it's one-to-many. Unicast mode is that it's a single channel. It can operate unicast or multicast with our WaveCAST single unit. But as I mentioned, with it being a one-to-one, is that every stream is 30 kilobits per second of bandwidth. So if there's 3 people that are listening to a channel, that means that it's 3 times 30, which is 90 kilobits per second. More bandwidth is used because of it being a one-to-one relationship. Whereas with multicast mode is that these units have a lower bandwidth with one stream that's going out to many devices. So the traffic is sent out only to those devices that ask to join the broadcast group. And some of the resources and tools that we have that will help you is that we have a WaveCAST network guide. We also have an FM Plus network guide, and those are available on our website. And this just sort of gives you an idea of what's included in there, but it's a checklist to go through when setting up WaveCAST on a network. And then another tool that's available free through TechBlue, this is called the Network Analyzer tool. And it is a free PC-based utility program. And it's designed for project planning. It could be for implementation and troubleshooting. But you can use it during pre-sales, site surveys, and to gauge a customer's network infrastructure, but also as post-install. And that's so that you can check on changes that there might be in network performance. But it's a tool, and it is to optimize the latency based upon the network conditions to ensure that there's high quality of service. And also, what's nice is it's easy to interpret. So you've got graphical status representation. Also, you can generate detailed reports, and those will provide so you can make adjustments and troubleshooting by either a network specialist or also somebody that just has general IT knowledge. And the way that it works is that there's 3 options. So you would use a laptop that would be masquerading both as a WaveCAST server and a cell phone. And then you're running the WaveCAST app for a round trip check. Option 2 is that you could have a laptop that is masquerading as a WaveCAST server, but then you also have another laptop that is masquerading as a cell phone. And so you're running the app and you're connecting to different nodes on a network or across subnets. And then the third one is that you could use a WaveCAST 8 server and a laptop. What are some design considerations? First off, it's important is that you have to determine what is the Wi-Fi coverage going to be. And then is there any spots of interference? And then identify, the Wi-Fi channels as well as the frequency that they are open or are they crowded? And then do a survey. And just to confirm that the existing Wi-Fi network has the capability to support WaveCAST in a consistent manner across the site. And then finally, consider for new buildings, for a new build, is that generally there will be a Wi-Fi survey that's already been commissioned. So we recommend that you ask to see the results and do any spot checks. There are some tools. There's a lot of options to use. You can use your app. There's an app on a phone, and there's several different types to do basic Wi-Fi testing or dedicated Wi-Fi testing hardware. So there are options to use for surveying a site for Wi-Fi. And then some other design consideration, what things should you consider? It can be integrated into an existing network or used as a standalone network, as I mentioned. And then also that there's up to 45 simultaneous connected devices for Unicast implementation. Anything above that is then you would use a multicast deployment. And for those larger deployments, we do suggest some of the networking equipment such as Ruckus, Cisco, Aruba to handle that multicast traffic. Also, I mentioned that we just saw the network analyzer tool, so that will give you network verification. But any streaming audio cannot be considered ADA compliant unless the event provides a receiving device to those that do not have their own. And then also ensure that the Wi-Fi network is optimized and planned out for larger deployments. So I've shared a lot of information with you today. And during this session, I've talked about real-time Wi-Fi audio for assistive communications. But not only the hard of hearing face accessibility issues, but there are many factors affecting one's ability to clearly follow along, whether it's at a venue or in a facility with poor lighting, bad acoustics, background noise, etc. And looking at the number of smartphone users in different age categories, in order to make a meeting that is broadcasted to the whole audience, one must consider options with dual technology, such as FM Plus or IR Plus, to allow those that feel comfortable using their own device to have access, but also the generation who prefers a traditional receiver with simple button control. Because as we know, there are some, that even with a TV remote, it's a little bit challenging. So give them something that they're comfortable with, that they can use and that they can enjoy the environment that they're in. Excuse me. And we do have this free downloadable resource guide. You can use the QR code, or also you can contact myself. I'll be happy to provide it to you. And then we have TechBlue. And you saw at the beginning, I introduced Matt to you, but TechBlue is our support team back in Minnesota at our headquarters. We have Daryl on the left, Matt, and Bob on the right. They're there to offer our PS&I CSPs free services, design help, project help. So please reach out to them and TechBlue at williamsav.com for any questions that you have. But also is that our sales team here in North America, we have Tony Braun, who's our VP of Global Sales and Marketing. Per Person, he is our VP of International Sales. So for those of you that are international listening today, there's myself, you have Per, you have our distributors. And for the Northeastern US, Mid-Atlantic, Southeast, and Eastern Canada is Tim Frankie. Tim Henry, he handles Midwest and Central US and Central Canada. And then Dave Bertrand, overlooking Western region US and Western Canada. There's also myself, Nancy B at williamsav.com. And if we haven't connected on LinkedIn, would you please reach out to me so we can? It's at Nancy Blanchard. And then I'm also active on Twitter. There's a strong AV community there. And so I'm same tag as LinkedIn is at Nancy Blanchard. So I'd like to say thank you so much for attending this webinar. I hope that it was informational and educational for you, give you some ideas in your designs, your projects, and we'll include Matt on here. So I'll hand it over to Haley with any questions.
Thanks, Nancy. Great job. We do have a few questions so far. So one of the first ones that came up was that you had mentioned using AirPods. Does this greatly increase the latency?
I can field that question. Any Bluetooth technology currently doesn't increase latency significantly. So typically we suggest if you're using it for a real time where lip sync is important, that you use a wired headset. There's many applications where lip sync may not be all that important if you're just broadcasting music or potentially a TV broadcast, where the little bit of additional latency does not matter. So you can still use them, but it depends on your application.
Thank you. Does the facility need to set up their network specifically for WaveCAST?
Not specifically. Our WaveCAST will work on most typical networks, so especially in Unicast mode. So often your network doesn't need a whole lot of modifications to make WaveCAST work. Sometimes it's a lot of just tweaks to get the best performance is typically the changes needed.
Perfect, thank you. If available, do you guys can you run through the latency of these different types of products?
It's going to be highly dependent on the receiving device because it's a BYOD where everybody's got their own phone. It's going to be highly dependent on that, but we, in an optimized network with our receiver, we can expect sub 100 millisecond latency. And depending on your network and obviously a much much larger campus-wide network is going to have some more considerations than a small house of worship that's got say 50 people. So it does vary depending on your application, but we try to keep it to where it's very usable and unnoticeable by the vast majority of users.
Yeah, and the Williams team can always follow up for a more specific application, of course, if you'd like to get more detailed into that question. Kind of one of the last ones, it looks like, how can end users get access to some of these products around the globe?
So for end users, we have local representation. We've got our manufacturing reps throughout North America. You can contact myself as well, or the sales team that I displayed. And then internationally, we have distributors, so that I can also connect you with a local distributor too.
Or your local PSNI certified service provider.
That's right. Yes.
I was going to add that. Well done, Tommy. Yes, you can always reach out to our certified solution providers. We work very closely with Williams AV to achieve that as well. A couple more. So are VLANs commonly used to segment hearing assist traffic?
Typically, yes. That's usually how we would suggest it, so that you don't have traffic bleeding from other, you often want to segment the people that are watching Netflix from the people that are trying to hear, where they're very reliant on that consistent network.
Thank you. Would you recommend Wi-Fi setup to be used for Bluetooth-enabled hearing aids?
Bluetooth-enabled hearing aids do work. You will have the additional latency of Bluetooth, just as you would with any Bluetooth headset, but it is very capable. It's typically, WaveCAST is usually from our WaveCAST receiver through the network to your phone, and then your phone handles that connection to the hearing aid. So it's not a direct connection to the hearing aid, but it is certainly something that's capable.
Fantastic. Can the combo unit, can you transmit FM and Wi-Fi at the same time with the combo unit?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you can. Yep. Our FM Plus is a dual technology, and they both work simultaneously.
Thank you. Other questions regarding, will a copy of the presentation be available? As always, we are always happy to distribute that right after this recording is available, so please stay tuned for that. That currently looks like all the questions I have, so I will turn it back over to you, Tommy.
Well, thanks, Haley. Nancy, Matt, this is such a relevant topic. When you're a systems design engineer and you're thinking about how you can build value add into a design, this is certainly at the top of the list. It should be. So thank you very much for being with us today. A big thank you to everyone at Williams AV. You guys have been a great partner for our members. There's 104 of our members around the world, and you guys do an excellent job of supporting them. For our general audience, you can find our PSNI certified service providers on our PSNI website at psni.org. For our members, the Williams AV program is on the member portal, so take the time to go to that link and read it. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me, Tom Roberts, at troberts@psni.org, and I'll be glad to point you in the right direction. Nancy, Matt, is there anything else you want to say before we close the webinar today?
No, just as I mentioned, thank you so much for attending this webinar, and have a great day.
Yes, same. Thank you for attending. Have a great one.
All right. Well, once again, the webinar was recorded and a link will be provided to you. With that, on behalf of the PSNI Global Alliance, thank you all for being with us. This concludes our webinar for today. Thank you and take care.
Thanks.